Today's lesson is called The Bet. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff.
I'm Roger, and today we're talking about something called the bet, okay? We don't condone gambling in this program, but this does happen sometimes if you go to a casino, maybe in Las Vegas or Macau or someplace like that, and you want to win some money, and you play cards like poker. At some point, you're going to have to make a bet. You offer some money, and if you win, you win everyone else's bets in that particular bet, in that particular round. But this is a different kind of bet that we're talking about today. It's between these two guys, a wealthy banker and the young lawyer. They're having a bet with each other.
Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and get started with our story. It's a story by Anton Chekhov. We'll start reading from it, a summary of it, right after this.
The Bet. Trained as a doctor, Russian Anton Chekhov made his name as one of the greatest playwrights and short story writers in history. His 4 classic plays challenge actors as well as audiences, and his stories often pose difficult questions to readers, often without answering them.
大家好，首先我们看到的单字是 playwright， 这个字当作名词代表剧作家的意思，所以我们可以说 The play I watched last night is written by a famous playwright. 昨晚我看的表演是一位有名的剧作家写的。除此之外，我们也可以说 Judy dreams to be a playwright because she loves William Shakespeare's works very much. Judy 因为非常喜欢莎士比亚的作品，所以梦想成为剧作家。
Okay, the first part of our lesson introduces the author of our featured work of literature, a short story entitled The Bet. This particular story is entitled The Bet, and it was written by the Russian writer Anton Chekhov. And trained as a doctor, Russian Anton Chekhov made his name as one of the greatest playwrights and short story writers in history. So here we've got this phrase, to make your name as, which means you are known for this thing or you have become famous because of something you did. So he was trained as a doctor. Maybe a lot of people don't know about that, but most people know him as being a great writer, especially one of the greatest playwrights and short story writers in the history of humankind.
There you go. He went to school to become a medical doctor. He was trained as a doctor, but Anton Chekhov, a Russian, he was a better writer, apparently, than he was a doctor. How about that? And apparently it wasn't even close. Anton Chekhov, a Russian, is one of the greatest playwrights of all time. How about that? Now, a playwright is a writer of plays, a person who mostly writes plays or dramas and stuff like that. Now, one note, the spelling here, pay attention. You can be a writer of plays, W-R-I-T-E-R. Here, though, Chekhov is a playwright. That's one word, P-L-A-Y-W-R-I-G-H-T, playwright, like Shakespeare was a playwright, probably the best playwright of all time. Anyways, more on Chekhov, though. Chekhov's 4 classic plays challenge actors as well as audiences, and his stories often pose difficult questions to readers, often without answering them. And this is very typical not only of Chekhov, but also other Russian writers. And very often, Russian writers, they do this. At the end of a story by a Russian, you're not going to feel very good. You're going to feel like something hasn't been answered, that there's a part of you that is yearning for closure.
Yeah, you kind of get that feeling when you listen to Shostakovich symphonies or even ones by Tchaikovsky. Gee, they kind of posed some questions here, but they didn't really answer them. Why are the Russians so mysterious? But still, these plays challenge actors, which means maybe the lines are difficult to memorize or it's very difficult to act in those plays and be convincing in your role. But again, they pose those difficult questions for readers, and you're just going to be left with a big question mark over your head. Gee, how are we supposed to resolve this question? Perhaps our featured story in today's lesson will do just that. Okay, everybody, let's finish up the first part of our lesson now and move on to the second part. What do you say we listen to it first?
One such question appears in The Bet. The story sees a wealthy banker arguing that it's worse to suffer life imprisonment than die by capital punishment. A young lawyer disagrees, stating the former at least allows a person to go on living. Feeling provoked, the banker bets him $2 million that he wouldn't last 5 years, to which the lawyer responds he would stay 15 years instead.
第二部分我们看到的单字是动词 provoke， 代表挑衅、激怒或是激起的意思。例如 Be careful, the dog might bite you if you keep provoking it. 小心哦，如果你一直挑衅这只狗，它可能会咬你。又或者我们可以说 The joke provoked laughter from the audience. 这则笑话引起观众的笑声。另外，这个字的相似词是 irritate, I-R-R-I-T-A-T-E， 它有激怒或是刺激的意思，像是 The fly buzzing around David's face began to irritate him. 苍蝇一直在 David 的脸附近嗡嗡地飞，让他开始有点恼怒。
All right, questions, everyone. How philosophical. But all jokes aside, Chekhov, when he writes, very often he poses questions, deep questions, but then he doesn't answer them. And this is intentional, everyone. Chekhov sometimes wants people to consider the fact that maybe there aren't answers to some of these questions, which is kind of sad, but it also might be truthful as well. Anyways, let's talk more about questions, and let's talk about our story, The Bet, as well. One such question appears in The Bet. So one of the questions that we've been alluding to here, one such question, a question like this, appears in Chekhov's story called The Bet. Now, more on this story. The story sees a wealthy banker arguing that it's worse to suffer life imprisonment than die by capital punishment. So, what would you like, Roger? Would you rather be killed by execution, let's say, that would be capital punishment, or would you like to stay in jail for the rest of your life? Which of these two things do you find preferable?
Gee, I just don't know the answer to that question, but I think I'll think about it, and then I'll try to answer that question when we have our discussion starter at the end of the second part of our lesson. But in any case here, this is a question that appears in the bet. It's a bet between the wealthy banker and the young lawyer. So what would you prefer, or what's worse? To be in prison all your life until the day you die, or to be executed by hanging or firing squad or lethal injection or whatever?
Anyways, what the wealthy banker is saying is that, hey, I think that life imprisonment would be worse than being killed by way of capital punishment, which is one way of looking at this problem. It's not the only way of looking at this problem, though, or the only way of looking at this question, I should say. Anyways, next, a young lawyer disagrees with him. So we have a wealthy banker and then a young lawyer. And I think this word young is important here. This person is young and youthful and maybe not super wise and maybe rash. Maybe this person hasn't totally thought things through, or maybe this person is simply young. They don't have the benefit of years and experience to inform their views. Anyways, a young lawyer disagrees, stating the former at least allows a person to go on living, which is a good point. If you do die by way of capital punishment, you die rather quickly, whereas if you are imprisoned for life, you get to at least go on living.
Right, and maybe the wealthy banker is wise because he knows about Russian prisons, and it is not a piece of cake to be in prison in Russia. You're probably tortured every day. It can be quite a terrible experience, so he thinks, oh, I'd rather die than spend the rest of my life in prison. So, of course, the young lawyer disagrees. You get to keep on living. If you have life imprisonment, that can't be so bad. Well, feeling provoked, the banker bets him $2 million that he wouldn't last 5 years, to which the lawyer responds he would stay 15 years instead. So they have a disagreement here, so they decide to have a bet here, hence the title of our story, The Bet. So again, the wealthy banker says that, hey, capital punishment is better. The young lawyer says, no, niet, I don't agree. It's better to go on living. So the banker feels provoked. Hey, you're provoking me. You're making fun of me. You're not recognizing my wisdom. I'm a wealthy banker. You're just a young lawyer. What do you know? You're just some kid. So, of course, the banker feels intimidated. He feels provoked. So, hey, let's have a bet. I'm going to bet you $2 million. So let's move on now to the third part of our lesson and continue summarizing our featured story, The Bet.
After the heated exchange, the young lawyer is locked away on the banker's property. While he can't leave the room or receive visitors, he is well provided for. The first year is difficult, but he avoids depression by playing the piano and reading leisure books. The following year, he stops playing the piano and starts reading the classics. By the 5th year, he does nothing but write. However, he often ends up in tears and destroys what he's written in frustration.
第三部分我们看到的单字是 heated， 这个形容词是激烈的、激动的意思。例如 Henry got into a heated argument with his friend at school today. Henry 今天在学校和他的朋友有激烈的争执。除此之外 heated 还有温的或是热的意思。那就可以说 Sam likes to swim in a heated swimming pool. Sam 喜欢在温水游泳池里游泳。今天最后一个单字我们看到的是名词 frustration， 它有沮丧、挫败的意思。例如 Shelley has been showing a lot of frustration in her new job. Shelley 对她的新工作感到很挫折。除此之外还可以说 It is difficult to deal with the frustration of being stuck in an airport because of the weather. 因为坏天气而被困在机场，难免会觉得沮丧。另外如果我们去掉字尾 ion 后再加上 e 就会变成动词 frustrate， 有使沮丧或是使灰心的意思。来看个例句 Pete was frustrated to find that there were no free seats on the train. Pete 发现火车上没空位而感到沮丧。
So there you go, folks. We've got it. We've arrived at the bet. $2 million for 15 years of confinement. Now here, I don't think the young lawyer has really thought this through. After all, if he stays in jail, in a self-imposed jail somewhere for 15 years, he won't be young when he gets out, okay? And I don't think any amount of money can rebuy your youth, but I think I might have said too much, so let's go ahead and read on. Remember, the wealthy banker has just felt as though the young lawyer was provoking him as far as his argument was concerned, so they have a heated exchange, and that's when the bet comes out, or that's where they finally come up with this bet. Anyways, after this exchange, after the heated exchange, the young lawyer is locked away on the banker's property. So, the young lawyer doesn't have to go to a Russian jail for 15 years. Apparently, he's going to stay on the wealthy banker's property. The wealthy banker is going to keep an eye on him to make sure that he holds up his end of the bet or the bargain. Now, before we move on, we've got two words to talk about here. First of all, we have the word exchange. Very often, an exchange is kind of like a trade or a transaction. Here, though, it's kind of like an argument between two people where they trade insults, let's say, or they might trade argumentative remarks with one another. That's what we're talking about here. Further, we also have the word property. Property very often refers to the stuff that you own when it comes to houses and land and stuff like that. But it can be as simple as the keys in your pocket or the wallet in your pocket. Those things are your property as well. You own those things.
Absolutely. So he's going to be in the banker's estate somewhere, maybe in some barn or some unused house or something like that. I remember when I was a kid, of course, wandering around the neighborhood. When I wandered into the neighbor's yard, I saw a sign there that said, "Private property, keep out." In other words, this is my land. You can't come in here. If you come in here, you're going to be in big trouble. So, as part of this bet here, the lawyer volunteers to be locked up or locked away on the banker's property. Now, moving on here, it says, while he can't leave the room or receive visitors, he is well provided for. So he can't leave, of course, he's a prisoner, and he can't have visitors come by to ask him how he's doing. But still, he is well provided for, and of course, that means that he is given plenty to eat. He can use the bathroom whenever he wants. Maybe he can have a couple of showers every day. It's okay. He's not suffering. He's not being tortured.
He has everything that he needs and more. He is well provided for, and this makes sense. He's dealing with a wealthy banker here. This banker probably has very nice things, a big piece of property, and plenty of food and stuff to spare. So the banker takes good care of this young lawyer. Anyways, for the lawyer, the first year is difficult, but he avoids depression by playing the piano and reading leisure books. Now, here we have the word depression. Depression is kind of a disorder of a mood or your mood. It's a mood disorder. It's a psychological condition. When people are feeling depressed or when they have depression, they feel bad. They have a very bad mood, a sad, low, blue mood that lasts for entirely too long. Let's say if your dog dies, you're entitled to feel sad, okay? But in a couple of weeks, you'll start to feel better. Depression lasts much, much longer than that, and that's why depression can be scary. Anyways, folks, here's a good example sentence. If you feel like a bout of depression is coming on, go and see your doctor as soon as possible.
Indeed. So here he's feeling sad because he's in prison, so he avoids being depressed or avoids depression by playing the piano and reading leisure books. Probably not books by Russian authors. They tend to be too depressing. So he reads leisure books, you know, some nice stories for kids or something like that. And the following year or the next year, he stops playing the piano and starts reading the classics. So he's played enough Mozart piano sonatas. He's kind of bored with that, and he says, hey, I'm going to start reading the classics. I'm going to read Shakespeare or Dickens or whatever.
So he starts reading the classics, and you might think, hey, that's a good thing. Well, maybe it's not so good a thing if you are in jail and you're left alone to think about the big questions that you find in the classics. Anyways, by the 5th year of his confinement, he does nothing but write. However, and again, this might sound like a good thing. Oh, he's writing. Fantastic. However, though, he often ends up in tears. He starts to cry. And he destroys what he's written in frustration, which is Terrible. Now, before we end our lesson, we've got two things to talk about. First up, we've got the phrase to end up. To end up in some way is similar to becoming something eventually or finally or after some period of time. Now, usually this happens, okay? If you end up in some way, this happens after something interesting happens or after a peculiar turn or sequence of events, but that is definitely not the case here. This is pretty bad here. He's ending up in tears very often. That's bad. Sounds like he's depressed, actually. Anyways, we also have the verb destroy. If you destroy something, you completely ruin that thing. All right, folks, with that, it's time for you guys to hear from the Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点，读到课文的第一句 Trained as a doctor, Russian Anton Chekhov made his name as one of the greatest playwrights and short story writers in history. 俄罗斯人Anton Chekhov 受过医生的训练，是历史上数一数二的伟大剧作家和短篇故事作家。那这边要介绍的是 make one's name。 好，这个用语呢，它表示成名、出名，也可以写作 make a name for oneself。 那这两种用法你都可以在后面接 as， 再加上某个职业或是身份，来表达说以某种职业或是身份而成名。举例来说 Jamie made her name as a live streamer. Jamie 她以身为直播实况主而出名。好，另外课文这个句子它有用到分词构句的句型。当我们用对等连接词 and 来连接两个主词相同的子句时，你可以省略 and 还有其中一个主词，再把这个省略掉的主词它后方的动词改成分词。主动的动词就改成现在分词，那被动就改成过去分词，这样就会形成分词构句。像课文的句子本来可以写作 Russian Anton Chekhov was trained as a doctor, and Russian Anton Chekhov made his name 什么什么。好，那前后的子句主词相同，我们就把连接词 and 还有前半句的主词省略。那动词的部分 was trained 它是被动语态，我们先把 be 动词 was 改成现在分词 being， 那么 being 通常会省略不用，就只保留过去分词 trained， 那么句子就会变成 trained as a doctor, Russian Anton Chekhov made his name 什么什么。我们接着读到课文最后一句However, he often ends up in tears and destroys what he's written in frustration. 然而他常常最后会流着泪，沮丧地毁掉他所有写的东西。好，那这边要介绍的是片语动词 end up。end up 它表示最后处于什么样的状态，结果变成什么什么。那它是不及物用法，后面是要接补语。补语可以是形容词、现在分词、过去分词或者是介系词片语。来看几个例句 The actor ended up poor. 那位演员最后变得很穷。好，那这边的补语就是形容词 poor. Although she studied law, she ended up working in the travel industry. 虽然她念的是法律，但她最后却是做旅游业的工作。好，那这句的补语就是现在分词 working. 再看一个例句 The letter ended up in the trash can. 那封信最后出现在垃圾桶里，那这时候补语就是用介系词片语 in the trash can。 好，以上是今天的重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Playwright. Christy wanted to become a playwright after reading some of William Shakespeare's plays. Exchange. I haven't spoken to Larry since the bitter exchange we had last week. Property. You are not allowed to enter the place because it is private property. Depression. A lack of sleep can cause depression, stress, and nervousness. Destroy. The singer destroyed her reputation when she gave an awful performance on a TV show. Frustration. Alice screamed in frustration after her computer unexpectedly shut down.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.